Hello guys, welcome back to another Free Spoken episode. Today we are going to specifically focus on the subject of Saturn and how that ties into Satan and Satan-based religions or Saturn-based religions and what that entails. We are going to be utilizing the Book of Wisdom, Volume 1 by Harry B. Joseph, also known as Revival of Wisdom. So please check this book out. His Instagram is Revival of Wisdom. His TikTok is Revival of Wisdom 3. And his YouTube is Revival of Wisdom. Now, I'm not going to be reading directly from the book because I don't want to get copyrighted. But I am going to be giving the general idea of what the information is telling us. So again, the Book of Wisdom, Volume 1. I do have Volume 2 as well, and I highly recommend both. In fact, I recommend them so much, I bought a piece of jewelry Harry B. Joseph sells, and I wear it every day. So when people ask me, I get to tell them about who Harry B. Joseph is. Now, I've read both his books. I agree with, I'll say, 98% of the information. The slight 2% disagreement is not inherently a disagreement. I think it's just my point of view is more expansive than his when it comes to very small things, very small details. But most of the information he teaches is something I agree with. I would also teach, is what I'm trying to get at. Okay, so first we must preface, why am I talking about Satan? And how does that have to do with Saturn and creation and religion and everything that is? So here we have to kind of get some esoteric knowledge or occult knowledge. And that includes astrology, which includes the planets, which is, one of them is Saturn, right? And so in astrology, what does Saturn represent? So the way I would describe Saturn is, in astrology, Saturn rules over the third dimensional material world. Now, when I say in astrology, Saturn rules over the third dimension, the physical matter, I mean to say, in order for consciousness to have structure and order, planets will carry energies because they are also energetically based, created, driven, and motivated, as all else is, because everything stems from a single point of light, a single point of energy. And so all creation is all energetically created, based, motivated, and driven, all of it. Which goes to tell us that the planets, such as Saturn in specific, is, like Earth, a ginormous ball of energy, as all else is. Even if there is a illusion of matter and material, although the energy is not necessarily seen with the human eye, it's there. It's entirely composed and made up of energy. So, energy, as all energy does, always carries an understanding of itself, a present now understanding of itself, a present now identification. Now, astrology helps us out to gain clarity and order with reality in this solar system, in the way that each planet will carry its own unique energy. And so Saturn specifically carries the energy of the third dimension, the material, physical matter, time, death, because according to our present limitations or our present perceptions, when you are incarnated throughout the course of time, you will age and then you will die. And so Saturn seems to rule over that, right? The process of aging throughout time, and then maturing, and then dying. Now, we have to understand when it comes to astrology and every single energy, truly, that it all carries infinite potential within itself. And so Saturn has infinitely potential in positive aspects as well as infinite potential in negative aspects. So, I could sit here and tell you Saturn is the worst. Because of Saturn, you age and then you die. Saturn is so evil. Or I could say, Saturn is the best. Because of Saturn's intelligence and wisdom, I've matured. I now have wisdom. And I can create sustenance that's going to last me long and create worthwhile success with this wisdom. Right. Why is that? Because Saturn also rules over the maturity of the essence of the soul, of the mind, throughout the course of time. Because Saturn rules over time. And throughout the course of time, we grow, we expand. And Saturn also is meant to represent the excessive restrictions or excessive expansions one experiences. And so if Saturn falls under the fourth house of astrology in the birth chart, in the natal chart, that's telling the reader of the chart that within the home there was a restriction of expression. Now, if we can find out what sign Saturn is in, it could be Taurus, Sagittarius, or Aries, and that'll give us more detail and as to how you are restricted, how that affected you, what aspect of your home life, all that kind of stuff. But the point is to understand that all energies, all planets, all ideas, all constructs can equally be used for positive or for negative in infinite ways if we choose to see that. And so to tunnel vision our perspective to only see Saturn as a negative leader is only going to limit your ability to go beyond the limits Saturn deals with. For example, if you really believe to be Saturn this negative lord, you'll never be able to overcome the limitation of aging. And so you're going to die. But if you can overcome that limitation of I have to age throughout the course of time because I just must, because Saturn tells me I must, if you can overcome that limitation, that limiting belief, then you don't have to age and you can live up to be thousands of years old and look as young as you want forever. Because we also have to remember outside of all this is that we create internally based off our energetic internal state. Because just as Saturn is an energetic presence, an energetic entity, an energetic being that holds influence in itself and its understanding, we are equally as strength, as powerful, as influential, as infinite, as godlike in our being, in our creation. And so we can learn to work with Saturn rather than surrender to Saturn, then we can also be just as positive and grand and great as Saturn is known to be. So now I'm going to read a little bit of what Harry B. Joseph describes Saturn to be. And I believe that the mainstream media will agree with him. And so I think it's important to talk about that. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about how Harry B. Joseph describes the concept of Saturn. Right, okay. So we know, or mainstream science, and that's exactly what Harry B. Joseph says, that mainstream science states that there is a hexagon, or a six-pointed cube, on the north pole of Saturn, right? And so he also says here that when you get Carbon has 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons. Okay, so carbon, the basis of life form, right? Has 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons, forming the number 666. That rings the bell. That will tie you into satanic religions. Okay, and so the satanic perspective is when we incarnate into the physical material, we are coming from being energy and light in the non-physical form, which is a more pure and authentic source of energy. All energy is all energy, right? But when you're in light form, you're just more authentically pure energy. It's fine. It doesn't make you any less. And that's what I need to drill in. However, based on satanic perspective, when we materialize or incarnate into the physical, we are downgrading. We're going backwards. And so instead of going up to the light, we're going down to the material. Why do they think that? Because light, when it's literally light in a form of energetic potency, vibrates faster. It moves faster, like fire, moving super fast, a lot of heat, a lot of action. And so it rises, it goes up, and it ascends, and it becomes light, and it's light in its density, and so it floats all the way to the top, light. However, the physical, because it is so dense and heavy and real and raw, and as much as you look at what's in front of you, you don't notice its energetic composure. You notice its physical composure, not its energetic one. And so it's what you would assume like a downgrade, because it's not quote unquote pure authentic energy anymore. It's a physical material thing. But if you go outside of those confines and you realize everything is based out of the same energy, out of one point, you would come to realize nothing is better than the other. The material world is just as awesome as the world of light, which is formless and just feeling. You know, just because they vibrate differently in speed doesn't make one worse or better than the other. We all come from one source, so we all have the same inherent worth and value. Okay, and so carbon makes the 666, which is the necessary life force to exist in this material plane. And that also ties into how Saturn has a hexagon, a 6-pointed hexagon cube at its north pole. So now we have ties of Satan, Saturn, and the number 6, and how that ties into creation from the satanic perspective. Okay, so I guess here it says he wrote a Bible verse that says, Satan, who is the god of this world, has blinded the minds of those who don't believe. Okay, so saying Satan, who is the god of this world, that is kind of annoying because I don't like the idea of Satan, a negative entity, being known as the god of an inherently positive world, right? Because the one point is inherently positive in nature. And if we're all energy, that means all energy is inherently positive in nature. If it's negative, it's only that way because it's in some form of illusion or deception or false reality, false truth, false understanding, false identification. But Satan, the bad guy, the negative entity Satan, is not the god of the third dimensional reality. That is a idea. And the more we go on in in this book that we're going to talk about, the more you're going to see where this idea comes from. But I just want to make it clear. Neither Satan nor Saturn are the gods over the third dimensional physical reality. So what is, Carla? Well, we all stem from a single point of light, a single point of energy. So that single original point of energy owns everything. And everything came out of within it. And so everything is literally from within it. And so talk to the original single point of light. That's your parent. That's the mother and father of everything. And so even Saturn and Satan and the idea or entities or energetic potencies that come out of those beings, those ideas, those entities, all stem from the inner single point of light, the original single point of light, and its infinite potential within itself. And so, no, Satan is not the god of this world. So he also says, he explains that according to satanic belief, Satan and Saturn are the god of this world because basically he's explaining, like I said, we are lowering our soul, our energy, from a high plane to a lower one in order to incarnate. So that's what they would say original sin, the mark of the beast. Because you are purposefully, with intention, coming from a high point of vibration, a high point of frequency, to a dense lower one to incarnate with the carbon-based life form, which is 6 protons, 6 electrons, and 6 neutrons. So now, because you're becoming matter, you have original sin or the mark of the beast. I want you to think about how irrational and how illogical that sounds. Because when we choose to incarnate into Earth, it's a choice. No one is pushing us. When we incarnate into Earth, it's an energetic acceptance. You know, we can never experience something unless we internally, energetically accept it. And so to say like original sin or the mark of the beast, simply because you lowered your plane of existence from a high, pure, energetic light one to a lower one, makes no sense, because everything is worth and value. Inherently, we're all from one point, no matter how high you vibrate or how low you vibrate. Right. And so Saturn or Satan is the god of the world because basically our mind, our energetic presence, is projecting into creation of manifestation of physical reality. So he says, as soon as we enter Saturn, which is this plane of the physical, we are now in the world of time and space. Again, because Saturn deals with third dimensional. With that, you have time and space. And so in order to get somewhere, you have to walk there or run there. You can't just think about it and be there, right? Because now we're in the third dimension where things take time and steps, and you have to learn to walk and learn to talk. And you are born, or you're incarnated without the knowledge of enlightenment, and then you have to come to figure it out through discovery. And right. And then he goes, this is why Saturn is known as the father of time. So he goes, this is why Saturn is known as the father of time, or chronos, meaning time. Yeah, Saturn is meant to rule over time. So here he's quoting Magic by Manly P. Hall, where he says, Satan, he is keyed to crystallization because we're meant to materialize. You see, that's what I don't understand. Where their belief that Satan, an inherently negative entity, rules over the third dimension? Who told you that? Because even the idea or subject of Saturn itself, astrology-wise, Saturn can equally be positive as much as it is negative. Now, if you have a negative intention to create harm and chaos, you're going to tunnel vision, say, Saturn, to only be negative. We're going to be like, oh, we're not going to look at the positive because we only want to portray the negative. And I think that's what happened. Somebody said, I'm not going to talk about Saturn in the good ways, and I'm only going to talk about Saturn in the bad ways, instilling negative belief and then perpetuating that. Because you have to understand, Saturn is not the God to our reality. No matter where we are, Saturn is not the ultimate God. What is the ultimate God? We are the points of consciousness. We are the original points of light in our own reality. And so, if I want to believe I don't age ever, and I choose to make that an energetic understanding within me, and I identify with that reality, then I will not age. And I'm not going to have to go and fight tooth and nail and box Saturn and ask Daddy Saturn for permission. No. Saturn is going to get out of my way and say, with maturity, you learned that you're more powerful than me and you overcame me. Good for you, girl. That's my girl. Because Saturn, and here he'll say it, that Saturn is known as the father. So, someone must have had daddy issues, because there is such thing as a good father. There is. And if you can see that, and see how that is the reality of Saturn, then you'll be like, yeah, where does the idea of Satan even come from? Because understand this as well. Energy is only inherently true by fact and by mathematical law if it's positive. And so Saturn's real identity, Saturn, the astrology planet, the energy, the entity of Saturn, inherently its original intent and purpose is for positive. Negative is of course always going to be an option because contrast always must be. But we're meant to focus on the positive aspects of Saturn. Saturn is like the father, where the father teaches you, look, you're going to scrape your knee, but then I'm going to help you and you're going to get up and you're going to be strong. And you're going to be courageous and brave. And you're going to grow up and be mature and strong and a leader. And you're going to have discipline. And you're going to wake up every day with a goal and perspective and focus. Saturn is a father. Satan is like the bad father, the absent father. And somebody who had father issues, I'm really going to assume, like realistically, I'm not being funny, said, you know what? Saturn is the god of time and death. He kills everybody. And he ages you and shrinks you to death. Saturn's like, yo, what's up, man? If you knew enlightenment, you would learn that you actually create everything, including me and my validity. Saturn wants you to outgrow him and be better than him, like your own father would. The real, true, authentic, original intent and version of Saturn is entirely positive. And if it's negative to any degree, it's to help you grow, not to instill the idea of aging and death and failure and resistance and all these negative things. Let's see. Yeah, oh my God, look at this. The Romans depicted the god Saturn with a clock or eating his children. We need to stop. Because somebody in Rome had massive beef with his father, and so he saw all adult men as evil. That's because we perpetuate our own projections of belief onto others. So eating his children, be so for real right now. Saturn. Oh, so now we're forced, because riddle me this. What's this message? That if you choose to incarnate into Earth, you're fucked? And under the guise of a guy who eats his children? Under his care? Under his protection, bro? Come on. Bro, if that doesn't sound like bullshit to you, I don't know what will. Because understand, negative idea, negative intention, negative belief, negative perspective, negative perpetuation, all this negative shit is always gonna be a lie and bullshit. And when you break it down, though, nothing ever makes sense. The math is never adding up. Who told you that a negative entity as Satan is the god of this reality? Because Saturn? Saturn's like, yo, not me, bro. Saturn is meant to represent the highest version, the best version of a father, of what a father could be, and how a father would raise a daughter in the most pure, enlightened, beautiful manner, respectful manner, mature manner, patient, beautiful, wise, humble, honorable manner. His daughters and his sons. He's going to raise his sons to be strong and courageous and brave and patient and smart and intuitive, and to be focused and dedicated, to have vision, you know, to create externally, to build. But like all these positive things, like, you have to understand, and you have to, when you're hearing me, doesn't it sound so ridiculous? Like the idea that a negative entity like Satan rules over something so beautiful like the third dimension. Something so beautiful that gives us oceans. Like, come on. I can't. The god Saturn with eating his children. Bitch, please. First of all, Saturn is not the end-all be-all god. There's only one end-all be-all god, the original single point of light, which expanded upon itself, meaning that we are each our own original single point of light. So we're the original single point of light, and Saturn is also the original single point of light. So we're on the same playing field. Saturn is not my daddy in that way. Like, he's not my god in that way. Like, no. I'm my own daddy. I'm my own god. And I go to Saturn for advice, as a daughter would with her father. But like daddy, like owner, that's us. Period. So he talks about how when you pass through Saturn, it crystallizes you into the physical body, making you material. And so he also says anything born in the physical plane has to die in time. And so that's where that 2% earlier where I said that I disagree, like for that I would disagree. The idea that because you're born in the physical plane means that you have to die is not inherently true. You could live forever. Now, most people, after a couple thousand, maybe 100,000 years, they might be like, you know what? I'm going to say bye to this one and go somewhere else. But, I mean, you don't, like, have to die. Or especially, like, I mean, I guess eventually you do have to die unless you want to live there forever, like, infinitely. But what I mean to say is also, like, there's no cap that Saturn puts on you. It's not like Saturn's like, bro, you got 80 years. That's my cap on you because I don't give a fuck. Next. No. Saturn is not in control. Saturn is not the god. That's the first thing you need to understand. Saturn is not in control. Saturn is not the god. We are. Our own energetic understanding, our own energetic mental state, our own inner energetic present now understanding is what creates. Whatever we believe to be true is what will perpetuate to be true. So, above all, please know Saturn is no god greater than you are. If Saturn is a god, then as are you. We are all the same. We create based off our own internal mental state. We create based off our own internal mental state. Saturn is there for guidance and advice. That's it. Like, Saturn is not gonna eat his children. Oh my god, what the fuck? Romans. And like, I understand that it is, like he says here, a metaphor. But you see how, like, why do you gotta portray it so negatively, you know? Like, what the fuck? Why can't you have portrayed Saturn with his beautiful children when they're all grown up? thanking him for all the wisdom. Why do you have to say, like, he's gonna eat you as a child and he's your father? What? You see, so whoever's saying these lies to you obviously has a negative intention behind it. That's clear as day by now. And so that already tells me it's all bullshit and baseless. Because what the fuck are you talking about? Actually, no shade. Like, I'm being so real. Where did this negative intention come from? That's what I want to know. And I can easily tell you, whoever, the first person who came up with this idea had some kind of issue in their life. And it was just a projection. And they said, let it rip. And the projection spread on for decades. Alright, so Saturn will not eat us, guys. Come on. Chill out, dude. If you don't want to age, you don't have to. If you want to, you can. You choose. Just, what's your inner energetic understanding? I don't age, I'm ageless. I'm literally ageless. And my cells regenerate instantly. All the time, I'm regenerated and ageless and new and healthy. That's, like, I'm just that super powerful and cool. Fuck with me. Our own inner understandings are what create. Like, come on. And so Saturn is also, he says here, symbolized as a Grim Reaper. Like, whatever, bro. Like, always gotta doing some negative way. Some negative intention, some negative perception. The Grim Reaper, bro. Fuck you. Is it a skeleton figure wearing a black cloak? And the skith? Not sure how to pronounce it, but it's like a sword or something, like a knife. Like, seriously? In a black, like, a skeleton with a black cloak. Could you be more creepy? Why are they pushing this negative agenda on me? Why not portray Saturn as a wonderful father who helped me grow and mature and learn a lot of lessons over time? And yeah, I fall and I get hurt, but I'm always comforted and I learn my lesson and I get up with strength and bravery and courage. Because I learned from my friend or lovely father figure, Saturn. Like, just why do you have to push it down our throats that it has to be negative? You see, like, the intention for the forced perception tells you everything you need to know. Someone's trying to fuck with me. And I want to know why. Alright, so next thing. Alright, so here we heard the Bible verse, Satan, who is the god of this world, has blinded the minds of those who don't believe. That's saying that when we incarnate, we forget. And so you're like, so explain that, Carla. Specifically in this realm on Earth, when we incarnate into Earth, the part of the choice, part of the game, part of the contract, part of the understanding, but part of the acceptance before incarnation is that you're not going to be enlightened. You're not going to remember enlightenment. That's just part of the deal. It's not some negative repercussion or consequence. No, it's just part of the deal. Can there be negative consequence or repercussion out of that? Absolutely. That's been proven. But it's not intended for that. You know, creation wasn't created with the intention to fuck you over and to see you suffer and be in pain. Absolutely not. On the complete contrary. Is it always going to be a viable option and possibility? Absolutely. Is that the intent and the original purpose? No. Positive energy is. So yeah, just because we incarnate without being enlightened is not necessarily a bad thing. Now, if someone pushes you the perception or the perspective, yeah, it's bad, they blinded you, they lied to you, they blinded you. Like, that's not the truth. First of all, before you incarnated into Earth, you had to accept energetically, mathematically, by law, internally, you had to accept your own energetic understanding to be that, which I'm going to incarnate without being enlightened when I go into Earth. You accepted that agreement, and I know that because you're here. Because there's no actualization of materialization without alignment. There's no alignment without flow. And there's no flow without acceptance. That's how I know. You see how all these are positive words? How do I know? Because positive words are true. And then you say them and they make sense. Why? Because the math always has to add up. And the math always adds up with positive energy. Because you can't add a math with negative numbers. You just get negative answers, which is not real answers. They're just more negative. You know, everything's like math. Everything's energetically based. And we have 3 options. Positive, negative, and neutral energy. So yeah, us incarnating into Earth and not knowing that we are not going to, like, not being enlightened is a choice. It's an acceptance we make before we come here. So don't try to tell me that Satan is blinding me. Because the only one person blinding me is a person telling me that. The fuck? Alright, you guys, now I'm going to touch on a subject. Now, many of you may or may not resonate with this. If you do resonate with this, just keep listening. If you don't resonate with this, listen anyway. You might learn a thing or two. Now, I'm not going to speak on the masses or point any fingers. I don't think that's fair. But I'll say this. There definitely, by fact, is a partial... Don't know how big this partial is. There's a partial selection of people who practice the religion of Judaism, when in fact it's a guise for their real religious practices, which are what they would assume to be Saturn based, but they're really Satan based. Now they go and blame Saturn so they won't have to carry any of the responsibility for their negative intention, negative action, and negative perpetuation. But the fact of the matter is there is a large percent of very influential leaders who practice under the religious beliefs of a Saturn-based lifestyle or a Satan-based one, making them satanic worshippers. And that's just what it is. And the reality is that the belief in this worship and the belief in the strength or power that this religion or lifestyle has gotten to such a large, ridiculous degree that it's no longer being hidden very well. Because keep in mind, these individuals, very influential, powerful people, have a lot of influence and power, right? And so it's very easy to keep things a secret. But when things start getting out of control, you know, things start coming out of the closet. The closet door starts to break and creak and things start to come out. And so I think it's imperative that we're in this point where you make a shift. You make a complete alchemization to positive intention, positive action, positive perpetuation, positive creation. Because I am going to completely debunk the reality of your religion, that Saturn is actually Satan. And so that your negative acts and beliefs are just okay and safe and allowed and even encouraged. Because you have to remember, these people genuinely believe Satan is Saturn. So they genuinely believe that Saturn, the ruler of the third dimension, wants them to commit these negative acts in exchange for material success. Like, they think they cracked the code. For real. They be thinking, man, I cracked the code. I finally found out who the real daddy is. And now my daddy gives me whatever I want. So long as I be sacrificing, you know, hurting, abusing, torturing, here and there. But you know what? It's all good. Because my daddy rules over the third dimension. So how are you going to fuck with me? They really do be thinking like that. And so I understand where their bravery or boldness comes from. They really believe that their daddy, their God, is Satan. That the God, creator, the ruler, the owner, the decider of the third dimensional physical reality, which we are all succumbed to. So we're powerless under Satan. And so they're like, I cracked the code. And now I just give him whatever he wants, and he gives me all this material good. And you're like, well, Carla, how did they acquire that material good? Like, it's working then. Yes, their beliefs did work. And I talk about this in another video about Satan that I have in Saturn. But we can create negative realities or negative truths, false truths, to be real and to manifest by backing them up with positive energies like belief and power and strength and dedication and loyalty and love and appreciation. If they feel all those positive energies towards Satan and that religion, there's going to be a possibility to build on it. And so it just happens to be that for so long their positive energies outweighed their negative ones, because remember, they had a lot of power and influence, and power and influence are positive energies. And because they had all this power and influence, it's like, oh, they just have so much potency of positive, you know? And so that's the only reason they're still alive and they're still functioning. It's because they have so much potency. But then over time, of course, their negative energies built so much that no matter how much money they had, it was not enough. There was too much negative energy. There was too much negative karma. They have hurt too many people. They've sacrificed too many people. They've committed too many negative acts. They've abused too much. It's been too much collection and karma of negative energy for this one goal of God or pleasing Satan or whatever. It's too much. And so it starts to crack and it's breaking. And we can see that now, especially with the realities of everything coming out, like with the Candace Owens docu-series she just did about the president of France, who again is also one of the people who is operating under a Satan-based lifestyle. It's just what it is. And so let's continue reading, all right? All right, talking about power and influence. Let me give you a perspective, and Harry P. Joseph is going to help me out. All right. He writes here that the elites use the symbol of Saturn in so many of their creations. Okay, now here he goes on to say that the elites, don't know exactly who he's describing. I'm not going to go into that. But he's basically describing that they have a negative intention, which I think by now we've established, because all this bullshit of negative intention is becoming so clear as day. And so he says that their negative intention is to trap us into this world of time and manipulate us into giving away our energy so that we will comply to their orders and operate under their rules and their realities, almost like if they're the gods and we're the mere citizens. When in reality, by now we should all know that we're each the gods to our own reality, and that we're each infinite in potential within our own inner energetic understandings, right? But they don't, according to this, which is coming to be proven correct, those in charge with negative intention who follow under a Satan-based lifestyle want to kind of trap you, lower your energetic abilities, and then kind of use you like, oh, you can play in my game as long as you play under my rules. And so they can do whatever they want with you and you have to comply. Now you have to also understand, these people genuinely believe that Satan is our ruler, our God. They really believe that. And so they believe that they're doing these things like out of love and worship and gratitude. It's like they want to fuck you over out of love and worship and gratitude. I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about how it all goes down to eventually to the desire and the chase of positive energy. Because that's what they're after. They're trying to please a positive energy. They're trying to serve a positive energy. They're trying to acquire love, a positive energy. They're trying to acquire worth and value, a positive energy from their God, Satan. The problem here is that they really believe that Satan is the God because somebody told them that Saturn is only negative, and so Satan must be the ruler. Who was it? Tell me your name. Who spread the rumor that Saturn is only negative? Who did that? Because that's where it stems from. I'ma get you. And so their goal, they wake up and their goal, okay, let me think of everything good and positive. Now let me do the opposite because that's what my God wants. Satanists, and here Harry B. Joseph also says this exact word, they invert everything. They contrast everything that's right, that's aligned, that's natural, that's normal, that's truth, that's aligned. They invert it. They contrast it. That's their goal. Why? Because in their really limited mind, respectfully, Saturn is actually their God. And if they can actually please their God, their daddy, then their daddy God will give them everything they want materially, and they'll have a good, successful life and be rich and have food and have a home and never have to deal with homelessness and things like that. And so when they're hurting these people, that's why they don't feel bad about it, because they literally are doing it out of love, because they really think they cracked the code and they did something different. And so they're here like practicing like ancestral family practices, and they like, and pedophilia and inappropriate sexual measures and abuse of children and torture and satanic ritual abuse as well, and all that entails, in mind control. They everything negative, as well as, and I know this is extremely controversial, and I want to say this, they enforce inauthentic transgender. And I'm not saying authentic where you're just like, Carl, like, you don't understand, like, this is so real for me. No, like, they force inauthentic. Why? Because authentic is a positive word, and they like, no, if it's positive, it's got to be no. So they force inauthentic. So what they'll do is they'll try to confuse the masses into thinking you're transgender, and then you become transgender out of confusion, a negative thing. And so now you're transgender out of a negative intention, and so now you're transgender, and then you have negative results after that, and then more negative energy, more perpetuation, more negativity. But the point is to confuse, to just everything invert. And so I'm going to tell men to get into their feminine energy. I'm going to tell women to get into their masculine energy. And they do it inauthentically, because I understand sometimes girls naturally can be more masculine. Like, I'm like that. But they'll try to manipulate you and force it down to you in an inauthentic way. Because there's a difference when you're following your truest, highest self and you're just more tomboyish, or you're more masculine, or you're a man and you're just more feminine. That's normal. It's normal. I love it. But when it's inauthentically manipulated upon you and kind of confused, in a confusing manner, forced upon you through programming and forced controlled exposure on the TV and forced media news exposure and things like that, and manipulative lies, and then it's like, well, that's not really going to help and benefit anybody. It's just creating more problems, because the idea of the Saturn-based religion is to invert all that is natural to become unnatural Why? Because unnatural is a negative energy, and the goal for Satanists is to please their God, which is a negative entity. How do you please a negative entity? By creating more negative experience, more negative perpetuation, more negative energy, right? And so they'll hurt people, or they'll just do anything negative, even the small things, like encourage gayness when, like, not gay, like, no one's gay here. Like, if someone's gay, let them be gay, but, like, why do you gotta push it or, like, encourage it? Like, what's going on here? Like, you know, we totally accept, like, acceptance and love and have an open heart and open mind, but then to be like, everything's gay, like, what? There's got to be a balance, but you have to be mature and be smart, you know. And you can't be like, you got to be smart, and you got to be intuitive, and you got to be like, okay, I understand when something is authentic and not authentic. Like when it comes to like gay people, there's authentic gay people, there's inauthentic gay people, and the negative one is inauthentic gay people. And Satan-based religions will like encourage people especially kids who are naive, to practice gay acts. They will encourage it in a manipulative manner, taking advantage of naivety. You know, it's a negative thing. Versus a kid who's growing up and, you know, he's 13, 14 and he has a crush on a guy. And it's kind of like, it's confusing, but it's also intriguing, but it feels good. But like, you know, where it's something, a natural flow of life, versus you're a kid and someone's forcing you to really get into the idea of, can I be gay? Am I gay? Like, what's happening here? This was not a natural flow. This was aggressively put on me, right? All right, now, he goes on to say that, all right, so I'm not going to say everybody because that's not fair. But we're just going to say under the assumption, give or take, that those who worship Saturn are equally worshiping what they believe to be Satan, because they believe Saturn and Satan are the same thing. After they listen to this video, they'll be like, oh shit, I was wrong, now I'm corrected, thank you. But before they listen to this video, they really believe that Saturn and Satan are the same thing. And so there's all these companies that have the symbolism of Saturn within their logos. And so this is important because it kind of gives you a perspective of, it's like, it really is the people that are in charge of the companies, of the things you see, the exposure you get the most. It really is these people that are high up there. It really is the elites who are practicing under this Satan-based religion. Is it just the elites? Absolutely not. There are some rural, you know, I've heard many testimonies where it's just like, oh, it was my grandma and she recruited like 10 other people and it was just like 13 of us, and I was 7 years old and she took me to a sacrifice, something like that, where it's like, there's rural, yes, small, but it's also happening in the large scale, in the elite scale. And he kind of goes to show a comparison, and I'm not saying a specific, like, I'm not going to say a company, and that's not representing a specific name, just know that, because understand that, like, managers are fired and they're rehired, and I don't know, there's just like a lot to go into it to pin down a name based off this, but I'll just give an example. Nike, capital, and you can look at the logos online and you'll kind of see like how they have Saturn rings kind of wrapped around their logo. Nike, Capital One, Whirlpool, Nissan, the brand Saturn, the car brand, NASA, Vivienne Westwood, Toyota, the internet logo, Intel, the Disney, Walt Disney has here 666 encoded within it. The Pepsi Cola as well. World Economic Forum, CERN, Google, Chrome, Coca-Cola, WWW, Universal Studios, how they all kind of have that symbolism. As well, he talks about the Monster Energy drink, you know, the classic, you know how all those celebrities have the finger on their face with their fingers up, kind of symbolizing the 666. You know, it's all just symbolism, but this is just perspective to show you just how much it is that it is like, oh shit, like, yeah, it is our leaders, it is the people who are running the country and control exposure, because yeah, it is. That's just what it is. And you know, I love Saturn actually, and so even if once all these satanic believers are retired and alchemized, like, let's keep the logos, because Saturn, like, let's, like, fuck the idea that Saturn is Satan, screw that, but like, let's still appreciate and honor Saturn for its true, real, authentic purpose, which is being a great father. Let like Father's Day, like, let's celebrate Saturn, and let's use Saturn to create the most amazing fathers. And I'm gonna help Saturn for sure. I'll give you like a guide or something. I'll think about it. All right, so yeah, so all these and so yeah, also the entertainment industry is supposedly also run by mostly Satan-based religious leaders, right? And so that's why you see all those people in Hollywood throwing up that sign with the 666. Most of the time, I mean, what happens here is this. You get invited into a club. Everybody in that club is super popular. You got all your celebs in there. When you go into the club, they say, girl, let me tell you something, okay? The whole world is an idiot. The whole world thinks that their God is some guy in the sky with a nice, or Jesus. They think their God is Jesus. But I know my true esoteric occult reality. I'm a witch. I know astrology. I know the truth about who the real God is. Oh yeah, I'm so cool. I'm so cool. So it's actually, yeah, Satan. And they're like, and you're like, who told you? And they're like, well, when I joined the club, someone told me. And I just ran with it because, I don't know, everybody's so pretty here. And they have like pretty jewelry. And also there's like big houses and a lot of alcohol. And you're like, oh. Yeah, so every now and then we have to sacrifice things to Satan. But that's okay because he's our real God. Don't worry, we know the truth. Don't worry, girl. We know the truth. So you participate in rituals and you sacrifice things and you hurt other people and you manipulate and you purposefully spread lies and negative energy. Yes, but don't worry. Don't feel bad, okay? Because Satan is our God. And so we just pleasing our God. Unless, wait a minute. Do you not care about the physical, third dimensional, material reality? Don't you want to be rich and have a lot of fancy things? Don't you care about the material? Well, yeah, I care about the material. I think it's cool. See, well, if you care about the material, then you better say thanks to the one who gave it to you, which is Satan, because he owns all the material. He owns all the physical. So say thank you, or else it's all going to be stripped away. Go live in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights, Jesus, with nothing. No house, no diamonds, no bands, nothing. Bitch, please. All right, end of scene. That's really what they be thinking, though. They really be thinking, like, bro, you want a material life with with riches and shit? Then bow down to the truth. And the truth is that Satan is God. They really believe that. Hi, I'm here to shatter all your truth and reality. Sorry, but also, like, you're welcome. You know, of course. Because I'd rather you just know the truth. I'd rather you just know the truth. Right? I mean, it's all crumbling down as we speak anyway. So just might as well know the truth, bro. Just, like, you know, jump ship. Don't worry, I won't tell. I'm not going to shit on you if you jump ship. I won't shit on you. I'll actually welcome you with open arms. Alright guys, we have 4 more pages. This is going to literally be like a 4-hour video. But that's fun because I actually like that there's no strict rule to this. And if you're listening to this one, then you deserve all the information. Okay, so back to, he has a page here. Black cube of Saturn. Okay, so another symbol for Saturn is the black cube. Why the cube? Because there's a 6-pointed hexagon at the North Pole of Saturn, right? And so it also shapes, like, third dimensionally. Okay, so 2-dimensionally it looks like a hexagon. But third dimensionally it looks like a cube. And so a symbol for Saturn besides the hexagon is also the cube. Now they say the black cube because ding ding ding, it's about death and destruction. Blah. Negative, obviously. They see it as black cube because they see Saturn as the ruler of death. Shocker. So it also says that symbolizes death, dullness, coldness, and darkness. Oh my God. Because Saturn is supposed to represent, like, you know how, like, when your dad gets mad at you and then you're like, Dad, please. And he's like, I don't care that you're crying. I really don't care. And he's like being cold, and you're like, how could you be so cold? But what he really is doing, he's not falling for your emotional manipulation that you're trying to give him as a child, right? And so he's putting a stop to it. He's saying no. And so that's what they mean by coldness. Like, that's what the original purpose of Saturn is. Not to be symbolized as death, darkness, dullness, coldness. Brother, like, give Saturn a chance, bro. Come on. So black cube represents Saturn. So I'm not going to go into depth, but he just says here that you can see this symbolism being repeated in the 9/11 memorial black cube statue thingy, memorial thingy. As well as there's like black cubes all across like the world that people have placed, and they're basically like satanic temples when you see things like this. I don't know exactly where because I'm just looking at photos that he has here of the black cube. But if you ever see like a giant black cube, it's just kind of representing Saturn. And 9 times out of 10, the person who built it is honoring their god, Satan. There's a lot more Satan worshippers than we care to admit or even are aware about, like a lot more. So he also says here, Harry says, Judaism is a Saturn-based religion, which is basically saying, Judaism is a Satan-based religion with negative intention. It's a negative intention religion is basically what he's saying here. Judaism is a negative intent-based religion. The goal is to invert all truth, thus making it negative. The goal is to invert all alignment into disalignment, to just shift everything. He goes on to say the black cube on forehead when praying, which I think is a practice in Judaism. Now I want to say something about the idea of Judaism. Remember, this is about intention, and so if you like, Carla, I practice Judaism, but I have purely positive intention. I'm never sacrificing people. I'm not talking to you. So don't like get offended at all because I'm not talking to you. I respect you and I'm so grateful for you and I honor you for living a positive lifestyle. Thank you. That's all I could ask for. I'm not talking to you. I'm not disrespecting any religion. On the contrary, I'm simply correcting those who worship Satan, just to be like, yo, like you think that Satan is the God, but I'm just like respectfully telling you he's not. Like factually, bro. Who is? And you're like, who is, Carla? I need to know. Well, we're the own gods to our own reality, but we all stem from a single point of light. And so we're all just energy, and we all come from one source. So there is no inherent God besides our own consciousness and who we are. We're the gods to our own reality. We create based off our own internal energetic mental state or mental understanding of who, what, where, what, why, where we are. You know? Of our beliefs, our thoughts, our mental conversations, our perspectives, our reactions of who we are. But I talk about enough of that in all my other videos in my 1-point playlist, as well as in my link tree, which is my Instagram bio and my YouTube bio and in my X pinned post. So he goes on to say, the black band wrapped around them to symbolize Saturn wrapping you in physical matter. Okay, I guess there's a photo here of a man praying with a black cube on his forehead and some black band wrapped around his arm. And so the symbolization of Saturn wrapping you in physical matter is its incarnation, becoming flesh, matter. Because when you're energy, pure soul, pure essence, you're light, so you have no form, you're formless. But when you materialize, you crystallize, so you lower your frequency or your vibration, so you can become dense physical matter. Did any of that sound like an evil, negative thing? No. But the idea of Satan is to spread illusion, misconception, deception, lies, false truths. It's supposed to invert reality, invert the truth. And so they're going to paint it as something negative when it's not. It's a beautiful process. Like what, bro? Like what, bro? So again, he goes on to say that they also cover their eyes into blackness when they're praying on top of the black cube and the black band. So they just like really go into the abyss, huh? And this is people who are worshiping Satan, right? And their day of worship is Saturn Day. So Saturday. Okay. Alright, so now here he's talking about the satanic sigil of the Baphomet, which is the inverted star, right? So it's like the pentagram is the regular star. And in the pentagram, the spirit, the symbol of spirit, stands at the very top, at the very peak of it. The very peak and pinnacle of the star is spirit. On the sides are air and water, and at the bottom are earth and fire. Now that's supposed to be the pentagram of the elements. Spirit, the soul, the spirit is at the top, and then on the sides of the star you have air and water, and then on the bottom of the star you have earth and fire. Now this is the original pentagram, right? The star of the elements. Now the satanic sigil here, he says, is the upside down, or as we've been saying, the inverted star, the inverted pentagram of elements, putting spirit at the very bottom, making earth and fire, the material and the fury, at the top, prioritizing the material earth and leaving spirit to the bottom. So it's just, again, an inversion of truth and an inversion of priority. Because in truth, all material is made out of spirit and energy anyway. So there is no material without spirit. There is no material without energy. So to say, to value material, because I value material and spirit equally, right? I see them as equals. But to put earth over spirit is nonsense. If they're not going to be equal, then spirit is going to take the cake here by default. Absolutely. Think about it this way. When the one point was just being, and it was complete darkness and a single point of light, there was no material. It was just being in its essence light. Like spirit takes the cake, bruv. Alright, so now we're going to talk a little bit more about the black cube of Saturn. Alright, so actually it says here, the Jesus cross is actually an unfolded cube. It's actually true. If you unfold a cube, it'll make the pattern of a Jesus cross. Alright, so here actually, why is that important? Alright, I want you to think about it this way, and how religion ties in with esoteric and occult knowledge. So the cube, right, tying to Saturn, which is meant to be what crystallizes you into physical experience or manifestation. And so here he's describing it as it's trapping you into the physical. And the only way to be untrapped is to die. I don't believe the physical is a trap, though. I believe it's just an experience. To say it's a trap is to negatively stamp it, because the word trap is inherently negative. And so I don't believe the third dimensional experience and incarnation is ever a trap. No, I think it's an opportunity. I think it's an experience, which are what? Positive words. But a trap, a negative word? No, not a trap. It's not a trap. You're not trapped. That's insane. But that is something that, again, occultist or throughout time esoteric knowledge will come to teach that. Everything that esoteric knowledge teaches is not absolute truth. Again, I agree with 98% of this book. There's small details that I don't agree with, and this is one of them. I don't believe we're trapped in any way into a simulation when we come into the third dimensional experience. No, I think we're taking an opportunity that we accepted to have and then having an experience. And when we accept that the experience is over, we leave the experience. That's it. Which is an entirely positive thing. You know, it sounds so scary when you say you're being trapped, and then you're going to be marked with the mark of the beast, and then you're going to be under the protection of your father who eats his children. Like, what the fuck? It's comical. It's comical because it's ridiculous. And then you're like, damn, like, people who really believe in Satan to be the god and are perpetuating all this negative energy, like, it's a giant deception. It's all a giant fucking facade, only to find out these people are creating your movies, your banks, your clothes, your internet, your banks, your cars, your drinks, your food, your theme parks, your science, NASA, your car, Capital One, Whirlpool, your movies, your theme parks, your money, your currencies, GameCube, your art, Da Vinci. These are the leaders who believe in this. This Masonic Freemasonry practice, or like the practice or the worship of Satan. That's the thing where it's like people don't realize like how real it is and how high up in the ladder it is. Yeah, it's rural, but the most major companies across the world are representing these energies. And that's the thing, I'm like show yourself, bro. Because they also believe in the concept of, I don't have to necessarily outright say I'm a Satanist, so long as I portray myself to be a Satanist via symbolism. So I'm going to create a company, and I'm going to give it a satanic or Saturn-based logo, and that's my contribution to my God. That's how I praised him, and that's how I wore him proudly on my chest. They'll do it in symbolic, sneaky ways that's not outright direct, because they understand that if they were to be outright direct, the mass would go bonkers. They wouldn't say, yep, I'm a pedophile, and I forced my family to become transgender so I could eventually sexually abuse them and then hurt them. I did it proudly too. Like, they're not, and yet it's happening behind closed doors. And so they have to worship their God in some way, because these are their beliefs, and they're operating under this perception, so they act on it because their life literally depends on it and their future success depends on it. And so they have to do it, and so they'll do it in small ways, in ways that go unnoticed to the common person, but they get to sleep peacefully at night because they know they crossed their T's and dotted their I's, right? But now that the more we become aware, the more we can just the more we bring awareness to it, the more they're going to want to do it less, because duh, like, come on. It's funny because it's like, obviously it's wrong, obviously. So he writes here as well that Da Vinci was also symbolizing the man in the cube in that famous photo that Da Vinci has with the guys all naked in the circle in the cube or whatever. but that the circle is representing the spirit, which is greater than the body, and the square was representing the material. And so the circle is on the very, very outside, on the outskirts, and then we have the square, and then we have the physical body inside to kind of represent like a hierarchy. So Da Vinci made that to kind of explain that. Okay, look, cool. He says something about the Jack in the Box toy, the one that you like, or you wink it. Carla, hello. You like spin it and it goes that Jack in the Box toy. He's saying that that's a classic Saturn based toy. It's a cube, and when you pop out, it's your mind breaking through the Saturn based simulation and becoming enlightened. I don't like the idea that Saturn is a simulation that's like purposefully trying to hide enlightenment from you. I don't like that idea. Saturn wants you to get enlightened. Saturn wants you to be your highest version of yourself. The most authentic, true, and real version of Saturn is the best possible father figure you could ever imagine. Anything that's not that, it's people are projecting their own misconceptions. Like, because when it comes to energy and things like archetypes, like the planets in astrology, what we can build and use is positive energy. What we can learn from is negative energy, but we can build and use as positive energy. And so why am I going to see the world with a negative perspective? That's not helping anybody, because why? The truth is what? Positive. And so why do Satanists like to perpetuate and express and spread negativity? Because their goal in life and mission is to please their God, is to invert all truth. So everything that's positive has got to go. Everything that's right has got to go. Everything that's aligned has got to go. We're trying to invert. And so that's why the GameCube is also like a cube, and it's like a Saturn-based logo. And I love the GameCube. I used to always play that. It's kind of taking you into the experience where, you know, you go into simulation and it's like that, right? And so, yeah. There's also, I don't know if you've seen the photo of Jesus where he's like holding, or he's, yeah, like holding a heart in his hand, but the heart has like light coming out of it and thorns around it with the cross on top. And so that's like a giant symbolism. The cross is representing Saturn, the materialization. The heart is the soul, right? The heart. The light is the energy, who we are, the pureness, the pure positive intention, our original being, our original origin is complete darkness in a single point of positive, pure, unfiltered energy, but it's positive. And the thorns surrounding the heart are what we would symbolize as the material world, quote unquote, trapping us. But again, it's not a trap, it's simply an experience. When I play GameCube, I'm not trapped, I'm just experiencing, guys. Perspective matters. Perspective will shift everything. If I give you a negative perspective, everything will just go downhill, because you're just going to start to see things as more negative and more negative. If I give you a positive perspective, you're going to see things as positive. That's why people who operate under Satan-based religions or lifestyles love to like spread negativity and negative perspective, and they love to tell people like it's never going to get better for you, like things like that. They love to scare and instill fear, and they don't necessarily just abuse physically, but they do it emotionally and mentally, and they also do it in the way where well, like some companies will like spread their message without us really knowing what their message is, but then they have like this whole ulterior motive, like, I don't know, you know. So for example, if I was like in a group of world leaders, like I'm talking at the top, and I ran Hollywood, let's say. My section was Hollywood. And I am a person who believes that Satan is my God, and so I must operate under his wishes, his command. And so my job is to hire musicians and performers and entertainers and actors and any sort of entertainment of individuals who are willing to work under the pretense that their messages can only be dominantly negative. What does that mean? You have to be aggressive in your creativity and your expression. You have to be overtly sexual. Like, not like, you know, there's a sexuality that is natural, and then there's one that is forced. Like I said earlier, there's a clear distinction between authenticity and inauthenticity. And they love to utilize inauthenticity in small ways and to confuse you with that, like something like sexuality. They'll make it either sexuality is bad or sexuality is good, when in truth, sexuality is more complicated than that. You know, it's a very fickle subject, and it's important, but it's also very important to have balance and to not abuse it. Everything is important in balance. Specifically something like sex, super important in balance. But they'll be like, okay, I need to hire musicians who are going to outwardly and overtly spread the message of sexual influence, because I need these young people to practice more negative intention-based sexual acts. Right. That's what I need. So that's what's going to happen. I'm also going to get these entertainers who are going to preach the message to girls that they don't need a man. Fuck men. So now I'm going to get women to hate men. I'm going to also make sure I hire people who teach men to, you know what, fuck women. I want everybody to hate each other. So fuck women, only go for the bag. And while you're doing that, kill all your bros, kill all your homies, bro. Shed all the blood. You know, steal all the money, do all the drugs. It's like you can only sing songs if it's like about that. Okay, so I'll hire you though. I'll sign you to my label, but you have to, and you can't be obvious, so every once in a while you can have like a nice happy song, but most of them have to be bad, okay? Awesome. And when you do your photo shoots, we're gonna have you in these really, really weird clothes, and we're gonna make you do really weird poses that are gonna feel and just make people feel uncomfortable. The point is to make people feel uncomfortable. The point is to spread negative energy. So, and we're also going to have you just be very inappropriate in all manners. You're going to abuse what's supposed to be balanced. And you're just going to be very anti-tradition, and you're going to blame it on your individuality and the fact that you're growing up and that you're different and fuck you, I'm so rebellious. Blame it on whatever you want, but just make sure you do what I say. Now, I want you to go and tell everybody that being gay is okay and that they all need to go and practice it, because that's going to breed a lot of confusion. So go do that. While you're there, make sure you tell everybody to never fight, because that way they'll never try to fight us and take us down, because they'll be too focused on their peace. While you're there though, tell them that they must hate men and that men are useless. And while you're there, instill the idea that they're always going to be sexually assaulted. While you're there, try to sexually assault them. Like, the goal is only to build ideas, perpetuation, energy, activity, expression, creativity, media exposure, camera exposure, photo exposure, movie exposure, music video exposure of negative things. And then they'll say, oh my gosh, she was slaying. You're such a prude. You have such a closed mind. So what if she was butt naked, rubbing her butt on the floor? It doesn't matter if kids are watching that. You need to open your mind and not be so closed-minded. They want people to be confused in the idea of what's right and what's wrong. And then they want you to fight over, no, I'm just an open-minded liberal and you're a right-minded conservative. When the truth is that the balance has been taken to extremities in both directions out of just a ton of negative, controlled oppositions, and we don't even realize that, because they'll be telling people, okay, now you're going to make music that's all about like conservative lifestyle, and then you're going to make music that's all about liberal lifestyle, and you're going to go at it, and then you guys are going to have an organized public fight, and you're going to get your fans to get all riled up. And you're like, Carla, what the fuck? This is so ridiculous. It is. But you need to understand the point of all this on the grand scale is to build negative energy. Because Satan is an energetic being that feeds off energy. His existence is energy. And so he feeds off more energy. His existence is negative energy. So he feeds off negative energy. Now, factually, his existence also has to be partially positive for him to even exist. And it is, because his worshippers love him and respect him, and they thank him, and they are grateful for him, and they say, thank you to my God for all my success. So there is equally as positive. That's why he still exists, mathematically and factually. But in the point, in order to serve him, you don't necessarily always have to go sacrifice a body. You can literally just go and encourage a naive person to go do a negative act. You can literally just talk shit about someone and you're already serving God. Your God. Even the smallest negative act is you serving your God. And so, but for them, they're like, if I can sacrifice 10 bodies, it's an even bigger serve. You know, it's like if I were to come to you with, I brought $3, here's my offering. And then I brought $3 million, here's my offering. That's how they think. It's just like logic. And so, he actually talks here. It says that most major religions can be traced back to Saturn. If that's true, it makes sense because I understand that. But yeah, I hope I've explained everything I need to about Saturn. Saturn is our friend, our confidant, our friend in creation, our partner in creation, our twin in creation. Not our ruler, not our superior. We are each our own superiors. We are all on the same playing field, truly. And like, what's gonna happen when I tell these people that have been worshiping Satan, did you know you're actually just as powerful as Satan, if not more, because you're actually creating him simply with your belief in him? Like, are they just gonna go completely egotistical and narcissistic and then try to overcome Satan? Like, I'm actually curious. But just know that if you're going to continue to perpetuate negative energy, you're going to self-destruct by mathematical fact and law. And that's not a threat. I'm literally being like, don't do that so you don't self-destruct. So you can chill with us and live a happy, nice life. But remember, happy, nice are positive energies. So get on that. All right. I wanted to talk about, you know what? I've said a lot. I've said a lot. And what else is there to say? If there's something I can come out of this, I'm like looking at all these elites who like genuinely believe Satan is the God. They genuinely believe that. And the validation of their beliefs happens. Like, they're validated in their beliefs. And so they believe in it more and more. And that's just the process of natural manifestation. Because that's what you need to understand when it comes to creation. Negative energy is always going to play out until it can't anymore. But it's always going to. But until it can't. And no one's going to tell you, ding, 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 this is negative, this is negative, this is negative, ding, 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 this is negative. No. It is what it is. And it's up to your own intuition, will, and intelligence to figure it out. And so these people they're like, I knew Satan was my God. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. It's working. I knew it. I'm so rich. It's working. Everybody's falling for my lies. Everybody's becoming manipulated. It's working. I knew it. I knew it. And for decades, that's what it was working. The ball was rolling. The thing about negative energy is that once it becomes bigger than positive energy, once the tides shift, that's it. It's game over. And if you really believe Satan is your God, I have a video about how to release guilt when it comes to letting go of an outside God, because you deserve to be free from that as well. Why lie? Yeah, and if you feel guilty because you're like, I'm afraid to let go of Satan as my God, because what if he shoots down with his wrath on me? I have plenty of videos and papers on how we create our gods to become, and their personality traits, and how they act towards us. And so you can literally create Satan to say, it's okay, don't worry about it. No problem here. I'm going to just go away now. Bye, love ya. Like, all right, well, I've said a lot. I said too much, huh? Hey guys, before I go, I just want to reiterate one last time what the overall objective or goal when it comes to satanic religion, what it is. So the overall goal is to invert natural to become unnatural. So what does that mean? If I'm going to encourage the unnatural. So like I said earlier, I'm going to encourage you to believe that you're transgender. I'm going to encourage you to believe to hate the opposite gender. I'm going to encourage women to feel like they don't need men to succeed. I'm going to encourage men to feel like they don't need women to succeed. I'm going to make everybody an island amongst themselves and have no interconnected relationships. I'm going to preach negative intention and spread negative message. And I know it's negative because we know definitions. Open up a dictionary. You can tell when things are negative immediately, literally by the words that are used, the emotions you feel when you see something. So they're going to get people who have influence and power, like celebrities who are under their control, to also influence you to fall under their rhetoric. So for example, they'll get a celebrity to say, go vote. If you're 18 years old, go vote. But vote for this party. Go vote, but vote for this party. And vote for them because I'm your favorite singer and you love me, and so vote for them. Or they'll say, since you are a famous person, all your children are going to come out as transgender. Make it work. That's the rule. Because you signed under this contract. Or because you're under this deal, you're going to sing music that's only under this pretense. So you're going to exploit the subject of sexuality to the roughest degree. Make it work. Because you're under my label or under my direction, the music videos you have are going to purposefully be where you explore unnatural sides of life. I'm going to purposefully put you in a position where you're exposed and vulnerable. And so you encourage other ladies or men or other women or girls, boys, whatever, to also expose themselves and be vulnerable to susceptible energies. And you have to understand that if these people, these Satan worship lifestyles are at the top of the food chain, everything else just trickles down and it'll get embedded into everything else, including, all entertainment, your clothing brands, the foods you eat. And you're like, what do you mean the foods you eat? Well, think about it. Like, how much food is natural nowadays? And I'm being dead ass. Like, actually, how much food is natural nowadays? And notice how the more natural the food is, the more expensive it is. Like, the math isn't adding. What the heck? Because the goal is always to invert reality. Because the goal is to serve a negative entity. How do you serve a negative entity? Through negative intention, through negative perpetuation, by feeding the entity more negative energy, by creating it in the earthly realm and then dedicating it or devoting the energy to this God. Because all these people are intelligent beings and they also believe and the reality of energy, and they know that the occult is true, and they're all right to some degree. They're just wrong in their direction where they're going. The wrong part here is the negative energy part, because there's 3 subdivisions to life, to all creation and infinite potential. There's positive, negative, and neutral energy. Those are the only 3 pathways you can take. And the absolute truth is always positive energy. We know this because our complete origin was complete darkness in a single point of light. Within this single point of light held the infinite potential of expression and possibility of positive energy, positive intention, positive creation. The possibility of negative expression was created when the 1 point expanded and became one with the void, the abyss. This is also where people get the misconception that the 3rd dimension is ruled by the darkness or the Dark Lord, because that is where the 3rd dimension takes place, technically in the void, in the darkness. However, that's not true, because in order for negative energy to even have any potential and experience or expression, it must have the life force of positive energy backing it up. And so there is no absolute or inherent truth in negative energy. It's all about positive energy. And I have a paper on this in my link tree. It's called Negativity, Longevity, and Power. And it goes much more in depth, and it explains in a much more clear, concise, and direct way. But I just want to get that really in check, because you'll start to realize, you're like, oh, now I kind of understand why this agenda about like gayness is being pushed. You know, and it's sad because there's people who are, you know, authentically and respectfully gay, and they deserve that admiration. But then you have all this confusion and negativity being spewed on, that it clouds their truth and their authenticity. You know? So, for example, if, let's just say the natural alignment is the majority of people are straight, right? That's just the natural, that the majority is straight and the minority is gay. What is the Satanist going to try to achieve? Oh, let's invert that. The majority is now going to be gay and the minority is going to be straight. Everything is just the point to invert. We're going to try to get all men to become women, to dress like women, to have feminine attitudes, feminine perspectives, feminine expectations, feminine actions, feminine reactions. And I'm going to try to get all women to have masculine perspectives, masculine action or energy or intention. You know, it's just about a flip and inversion. And true success is found in balance. I think it's important to say that. A balance of everything. But when there's an abuse, an excess, it's not right. So it's inverted truth. It's a false truth. And so, yeah, and I know I'm only talking about like those small subjects, and like also like with sex, it's like sex can be a great thing, right? But if we abuse it, it can quickly become a negative thing. And so if we're like talking about sex in such a degrading manner, that's not really honoring the spiritual nature of sex, or the spiritual significance or importance of sex, or even the spiritual power and potency that sex has. And we just degrade it by saying like, you know, fuck bitches, get money, things like that. Or like, you know, comparing like a woman to like a wet slide or something. You know, shit like that like takes away significance, and it makes it seem more feasible, more like whatever, more like who gives a fuck. And through that, who gives a fuck, what's actually happening is we're giving away our power, because sexual energy is directly tied to life force and power. And so we're giving it away because we're giving away its significance. So we're giving away its importance. So we're basically giving it away for free. And then we're using our own resources of power and strength and life force. We're giving them away for free. And so we become energetically weak, brittle, making us easy and susceptible for manipulation and persuasion and mind control and programming. And so then they're going to feed us food on top of that, which is filled with chemicals, and they're going to inject us with a ton of vaccines, which is also going to be unnatural. And so And they're also going to force us to stare at screens which hold unnatural light and try to keep us indoors and tell us that the sun is bad for us. And so everything collectively is weakening our intuition, our natural ability to be our alignment. And so it's super easy for us to fall under conditioning, under programming that's not even ours. And then we'll live, a span of like 90 years under someone else's programming the whole time. And we never even realized how we never had control over our life because everything was void of significance, because we never understood how we're just energetic beings purely running on negative intention and negative belief that was fed up from the top of the triangle, the leaders, the people who are leading our world. Why? Because they worship a negative entity which needs negative energy to survive. And so the only way for them to please their God and then successfully get all their material goods and whatever they want in the material is to fuck everybody else over. That's the goal. And it's not just entertainment, it's every industry. It's in every facet, in every aspect. These people really were the leaders of the world. They really were. And the world is big, and it's super big, and it's super complicated, and it's a lot of subdivisions and a lot of categories, a lot of career paths, a lot of different subjects, a lot of pathways. There's so much, and they found their way. The Trojan horse got their way in everything. And so it's all about, collapsing the old and bringing in the new. But I also want to say, don't be afraid of Saturn. Don't be afraid of loving the planet Saturn in a respectful and honorable, amicable way. That's not like a worship or anything, just like a nice, friendly way, respect, like you would a friend that you respect. And learn from Saturn and become the best father, even if you're like a girl, a woman. What I mean by father is, you learn how to be a respectful person with morale and discipline and loyalty to the cause. And I stand for what I believe in, and I'm not moving. And I have, I'm going to work for this, and I'm going to dedicate time and focus, and every day I'm going to get up for this, and I'm going to fight, and I'm going to do the right thing. That's Saturn. That's Saturn. That's Saturn.